And hello, everybody. This is Denise Guru, your Ascension Oracle once again. And this is just a quick intro before this video starts. Actually, this video was just to be a little chat between Alex Donnelly and myself. Alex, actually, for those of you who have been following along with the readings that I've been doing with Eric Klein's channeling books, The Crystal Stair and The Inner Door, Alex found me through my YouTube and the readings that I was doing because he has all of the recordings, that Alex Klein did with all the Ascended Masters and Ashtar Command. And he wanted to know if I was interested in uploading those to my YouTube channel. So of course, yes, I'm going to be doing that. And so we got together, and even though this chat wasn't set up for a video, I decided to push record just in case, because sometimes you get some really golden nuggets of information when you talk. And I think you'll really like Alex. He's got this very subtle energy, very deep, subtle energy. He's a musician. From what I know. He does music, and he does it to the frequency of 432 hertz. And so that is the small little piece that you heard or might be hearing right now, and then the small little piece that you will hear at the end of our video, just to give you an idea of the music that he does. But we did talk a lot about some various different things. We got on the subject, of course, of Eric Klein, but we also talked about the Aborigines, because Alex lives in Tasmania, an island off of Australia. So I found that very interesting for us staters here. And so we talked about the Aborigines. I talked about the Native Americans. We got into, like I've listed in the description, we got into out-of-body experiences, dream paralysis, some of the 5D things. So it was a very interesting chat. It got a little lengthy because we were just, getting to know each other. So I would suggest you just sit down and relax, get yourself your favorite beverage and a snack. And I really hope you enjoy this video, and I do. I really would like to have Alex back, maybe as a regular. It's up to him. It's a little tough because he is 16 hours ahead of us, which just blows my mind. That time and stuff just makes things a little bit difficult. So I hope you enjoy our chat, and we'll just see you soon. Yeah. Well, if you don't mind, I push the record button.
Yeah. I didn't think you'd be doing this when you first said have a chat. But yes, that's okay. I'm up for that.
I just thought, sometimes we have talks, and I think that, we should record, because there was some really great stuff that came through. So
yeah, I'm getting the feeling that it's probably time to. I've sort of put myself out there and come back, and I'm sort of getting the feeling that right now I can't sit and watch everything that's going on. And
right.
Anyway, so yes, please feel free to record.
Okay, well, great. Well, I'm glad that you had mentioned Mother Earth, Gaia, because it was really interesting today. I took my horses for a hike. I don't ride them. I just like to hike with them and just connect, really get into the surroundings. And while they were eating grass, I was just seeing if there was anything out there that Gaia had to say. And our trees, what we have for trees here where I am at, we have a mix of trees, but where I'm at, they're called pinyon pines. And they don't get really tall. They don't get as tall as like your ponderosa pines, but they're really cool trees. They're all different shapes, and some arbor out. And she said that just imagine this world where the trees were hundreds of feet tall instead of your little shrubs that you're looking at right now. And she said that the oxygen level then was a lot better than it is now. And we're really not getting the level of oxygen that we normally should, how it used to be when the earth was at her original state. So can you just imagine what it would be like if we, when somebody grabs an oxygen tank and they get to take some of that oxygen, how it makes them feel? And so she's saying, just imagine that, because the trees, your trees, she said that we have so much open space now because the trees are not what they used to be. And she says we get a lot more sun than we used to, because when the trees were taller, they canopied out. And so we had a little bit more cover than we are now. So like you guys, I'm sure you guys probably get a lot of sun down there. Do you guys have ozone trouble down there with the sun, or?
Apparently that's what's going on here in Tasmania. There's a lot more water. It's a lot cooler. We're, I think we're the third closest landmass to Antarctica.
Oh.
I think it goes Tasmania, New Zealand, and the very tip of South America. There's an Antarctic division here and icebreakers that go down. We got a lot of trees here. They're gum trees. I've never really felt like, I've always thought they were alien and strange, and it's only really been in the last 5 or so years that I've really come to love them. And they're beautiful trees, but I'm just speaking from my own feeling about them, that they just always looked strange to me. Further up the state, we've got some very tall ones. But I have seen the photos of, some geographic features that people feel, what's the word? Fossilized trees, giant trees. If you go to Lisa Renee's website, she's got an image of one of those on her website.
Yeah. I know Lisa Renee. Yeah. Well, have you ever seen that movie, There Are No Forests on Earth?
Yes, I've watched that. Yeah.
What did you think?
It was years ago now. It's, as for me, anything that's out of my personal experience, and I mean, if you have a resonance in your heart, and a feeling of rightness, and you can resonate with it, it's more than just what I think about it, but it's definitely on the shelf with everything that I've been exposed to. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you felt it more to be plausible. It was more like,
oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, undoubtedly. If you look at, well, look, we all know his story, history. We all know, if we've been looking around for a little while and asking some questions and seeking, and when you couple that with a feeling of, at least for me personally, and many close friends that I have, of not really feeling like things really add up here, and that it's not really, we're not really thriving here, and when you receive information like that, it's the start of something. It's, it can be catalyzing, and
Yeah. Well, so here in the States, we have the Native Americans, and
yes.
you there in Australia, you have the Aborigines.
Yes. And if you listen to a guy called Mark McMurtry, who is an Australian tribal man, as he describes himself, he says they are the originals, and ab-origine is one of those Latin, is it a prefix? suffix. I sometimes mix them up, but
Suffix.
ab is like, yeah, it's like ab is like abnormal, abstain. They are the original people, the original tribal peoples. And though I know people, Aboriginal people here who, even when I've suggested that idea to them, who say, you know, they're quite happy to be known as Aboriginal. Anyway, that's just a bit of information that I picked up from someone who's into the whole common law here. And, you know, that really ties into how language, the whole you know, the trance state of the English language that induces in people. And when you find little things, it really activates little things. Anyway, here in Tasmania, it was complete genocide of the original tribal peoples. There was one surviving person, and of course there are other Tasmanian Aboriginal people here, or the descendants of the tribal people, but the English basically wiped them out. It's a terrible, heart-wrenching thing. So we've got a society that's founded on genocide, and I'm not trying to focus on the negatives, but just being sort of pragmatic about it. This is what happened here. So in many ways, we've only got the echoes of their wisdom. We've only got, anyway, so I digress. I've been thinking about it lately, so it's...
Yeah. Well, and I just think the indigenous people, I mean, they hold all the secrets. They, you know, I was listening to someone talking about the magic mushroom, you know,
Oh, yeah.
shrooms, and he was talking that he thought that the indigenous people, the original people, the shamans, they got their knowledge from actually eating the magic mushroom. I don't know if you have mushrooms in Australia, but
we've got some good ones here in Tasmania. I've never seen the ones on the mainland.
Yeah.
It really wouldn't surprise me. You know, these things are, you know, they're a bit of a, you know, they help sometimes. You know, if they're sort of used in the right way. It really does, you know, Mother Earth is already stunningly beautiful, but that really does, we were talking about dimensions before, it reveals a whole other dimension that you don't generally see with your usual physical eyesight.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And touching on what I was just saying before about the genocide, I think the reason why I feel so strongly about it is that we as you know, my parents come from immigrants from Europe, England and Scotland, Ireland, Germany, Lithuania. And, you know, we very much, you know, our spirituality was very much a, you know, a very organized, stratified thing. And, you know, that's, society has broken this down over the many decades, you know, in some ways because, you know, there's corruption there that needs to be exposed. But if you don't look for the mystical within it, you're not left with very much. And so here you are in this beautiful country, standing on the soil of a people that were never understood, who are now gone, with no real genetic connection into the earth. And I guess that's why I feel strongly about it, because it's not saying that we can't rediscover it for ourselves, but that there's definitely a gap here of this, you know, spirituality has become this thing that people really, and I'm generalizing terribly here, you know, of course it's not like that everywhere, but there is very much a feeling of that spirituality is something that's not really understood in academia and science. And science is wonderful, obviously, you know, we wouldn't be speaking now without science. But that spirituality has been pushed to the side by this very scientific and academic type of perspective and argument. And spirituality is a fairy tale or a myth on the outer edges, generally speaking. And so when you bring up, you know, the tribal peoples, the original peoples, yes, here in Tasmania, for lack of a better term, it's pretty straight, you know, it's pretty, I don't want to put a word on it. I don't want to label it or judge it because I don't want to, but I think you might know what I'm trying to get at.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, mushrooms, it definitely can be a very good support for, you know, breaking down the doors.
Yep. Yep. Getting rid of some of that straightness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I just think with the indigenous tribes, I think there was a reason why there was, you know, look what happened to the Native Americans here in the state. You know, because do the Aborigines believe like the Native Americans? The Native Americans think that they came from the stars, the Pleiades, the Seven Sisters. I suppose
Yes.
the Aborigines probably thought the same.
Yes, there's a man, Stephen Strong, I believe his name is. He's done a lot of research and he's linked Egypt back to Australia. There were a lot of monuments that were cleared away. There were things here that were cleared away by certain groups for certain reasons. It's all connected.
Oh, yeah.
The Australian Aboriginal peoples have the longest, I think it's 30,000 years of history they cite. Yeah, the dream time was really something very much that was, you know, features big in their mythology. And they've always been happy to share.
Yeah.
They've never ever been they've never been divisive in any way. You know, the door's always been open. Yes.
Yeah. Well, you know, I have a lot of Native American friends, and when I first started my awakening, we, you know, they had a thing that they called your vision quest, Humbludja, like the vision quest. And I'm thinking that Aborigines, didn't they do something like that? Was the walkabout?
Yeah, an ex-partner of mine had this spear that she used to keep, and that was part of her. She did an initiation with the native peoples, the tribal peoples. So she knows quite a lot about, and this was on the mainland. I have some friends in the community that I'm lucky enough to know, that I met through her actually, but I've never done that myself. But yeah, you were talking about your vision quest.
Oh yeah, well, I never got to do a vision quest, but we used to do a lot of I lost my train of thought here. Where we went into we went into the mother's womb type of deal where you kind of dig a hole and then you build around the top of it with all the blankets, and then you would put the hot rocks in the middle of it and everybody would sweat lodge.
Oh yeah, I did that.
Getting old.
Yeah, I did that back in 1995 a few times.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, down at a place called Eagle Hawk Neck, and that was And getting back to the Eric Klein channelings, it was
Yes.
the Eric Klein channelings and listening to those that actually led me to that.
Really?
So, yeah, so I was listening to those cassettes that I sent to you. Well, I actually only had about 5 or 6 of them. And when I've actually, the ones I sent to you, I've had those since 2007 when my aunt died. She was the one who shared them with me back in 1990 something. And that really was, and while I'd read a few things, new age things before that, listening to those recordings really just woke me up to something. And that was when I eventually ended up meeting through some people who said, oh yeah, well, we've done this ascension process, but it's not like that. It's changed. It's this ground ascension thing. And so I went and stayed with them for a little while and tried this ground ascension thing. I was 19. I think I lasted a night. And I realized I just...
You were not ready.
I wasn't ready. You couldn't... you weren't supposed to eat for 10 days. And I thought, I'm doing this. And just hit the wall very quickly. And so life has been like a waking up, going to sleep, waking up, going to sleep ever since that time. But I've always gone back to that initial awakening and that initial, and I've never really found a community like that since, though I have several friends who are, for lack of a better term, awake. There aren't any communities that I've come into contact with that were really living that unfolding. Yeah. But yeah, that was where the Sweat Lodge was.
Oh, and see, this is how you and I connected, because I was doing the readings.
From the crystal stair.
Eric Klein book readings, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's how why you contacted me. So, and I will be getting those up. I'll be getting those up. So,
oh, no hurry. And
yeah, there's a ton of them.
There is, and it's not so much to send you a job of work to do, or anyone a job of work to do, because if I really, wanted to, I could set all that up myself. I just felt, well, like I'd taken a bit of a step back from the whole social media thing, but also, you were resonating with Eric's work, you were sharing it, and you appeared to have a community of people. And I thought, well, I'd actually just had this sort of, when you get the inspiration or the guidance to do something, and it was, that box of cassettes, you really should, and there's so much noise and hiss in the tape recordings, and I spent the time to clean them up and get all, most of the hiss out. If you take too much hiss out with some of these things, you end up compromising the audio, and it doesn't have all of the, so there's still a tiny bit of hiss in there, but you can listen to them. Anyway, it just seemed like the right time. And then I was looking for Eric Klein, and I just couldn't seem to find him. I'd find different Erics, but never really like, this is the person who did the recordings. And it kind of stopped at the crystal stair. And there's another Eric Klein who seemed to be related to that, but I tried to make contact, but didn't get any response. And then I found you doing the reading. I thought, okay, this is it. Time to do this. So, sorry that's sort of passing on to you, but hopefully
but the thing is, it's like, I told you I would have to listen to each one of them again. And I thought that was a good thing, because
good idea,
you can pick out more that way. It's like watching a movie more than once, because when I don't actually, when I do the readings, I don't read the book first. So when I do the readings, it's like we're all getting the information together. And so when I'm done, it's like, oh, I have to read that again because I have dyslexia. So when I read something, it takes, I have to read it a few times for it to really sink in. So I think the recordings will really help a lot. And it'll be really interesting to actually just hear Eric do the channelings instead of listening to me, you know. But how I found out about his work was, do you know, are you familiar with Cobra's work?
I am. I'm familiar with Prepare for Change, and I was
Okay.
on the Prepare for Change Facebook group back in, I think it was 2014, 2015 for a little while. I still keep up with what Cobra's doing. Yeah. I was listening to Rob Potter, and that went on to onto Cobra.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, I still tune into his stuff.
Okay. All right. So, well, that's how I found out because I don't exactly know what question. I went on the Prepare for Change and he had a post and I posted a question and someone said, oh, you need to read, I think I was talking about Raw Law of One material maybe. And someone said, oh, you need to read Eric Klein's books. And he said that Cobra was the one that said, Eric Klein's channelings are the closest to what actually is going to happen during the event, even though we're like post what Eric Klein was talking about. But, you know, none of the ascended masters, they, you know, we were trying to come up with, you know, oh, this is going to happen back in 1990. This is going to happen in the next 2 or 3 years. But they kept also saying that, you know, it's hard for them to give us the correct time, you know, because of that time thing, you know. So it's just like any of them. A year for you could be a blink of an eye for us or whatever. So you know, I know you had mentioned that too, that, you know, this was back in 1990, but I think it really resonates with what's going on right now.
Absolutely. Some of the particulars are different. I mean, there's so many people. I mean, we've had, honestly, there are just thousands of people that I have listened to. Some of them I've read. Some of them have really inspired me to read them. Like Drunvalo Melchizedek. I bought some of his books, The Sacred Geometry. There's a lot of metaphysical, or perhaps that's not the right word. There's a lot of sacred geometry in there anyway for the conscious mind to try and bring it in. But the information in Eric's channelings, yeah, some of the particulars are different, but the essential information, 80 to 90% of the basic information from all of the people that I resonate with, you know, it comes back to self-mastery, unconditional love, going within, the unfolding, the ever unfolding journey of going within. This whole idea of higher realms of experience, that we come from an incredible history, that is, we're at a culmination point now where it is unfolding, and all across the world there are thousands of people who are tuning into this in different ways, but essentially bringing together the same essential essence. I mean, you know, I don't like to just say, you know, because it's kind of nebulous, but and if we look at all of the you know, the sacred wisdom from the different cultures around the world, it really is encapsulating all of this together, this ascension, awakening, you know, the whole, I was thinking about the fifth dimension the other day, and, you know, just this morning, actually, ever since I watched your video, I watched your video, the last one that you did, just trying to get an idea of where you were at before we speak today. And I know that we'd had a bit of an email exchange about what is it and what do we feel about it. And it's definitely something that's, you know, it's cyclical, perhaps. It's here right now. I've got so many things that are sparkling, but I can't put into words. Anyway, I'll pass it back to you because I've come a cropper a bit there.
Well, you know, it is that cycle thing. It's like the spiral, you know, because when I do my work, I do it in my spiral wheel. And so, you know, everything's this cycle, but it spins in the spiral, like your kundalini, like the DNA. And so it's like we're on this ride and we go around, and then we come to this spot where, okay, we have a choice to go up a little bit to spiral around again. And so we're in that, it almost feels like we're in that little spot, like, okay, you guys get a chance to go up now to the next spiral. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what I was trying to say. Thank you for that. I did have an experience a few weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, where I felt that I could, you know, when you could almost smell something, you can almost remember the name of something, you can almost see something. I've been listening to Marina Jacobi a bit lately, and sometimes I listen to Patricia Cutter-Robles as well. They're both talking about this gifting, you know, giving. This is very much what the, for lack of a better term, the fifth dimension is, this new world, this golden age. It is service to others. It's constantly being in a state of service to the all. And so I made an effort to apply myself a bit more to that. You know, I always do a bit here and a bit there, but I did more. And I was feeling really, really good about it one day. I was driving home from work and I felt like I could, regardless of, you know, we've got the whole lockdown going on here. It's everywhere. It's really quite surprising how quickly it's all happened and how mesmerized people appear to be with it. And regardless of all of that, and it has challenged me quite a lot, it's really brought me into myself a lot, and I've had to sort of clear away a lot of stuff and, you know, really work on bringing my courage together, and working on transfiguring all of the junk that's coming up, and it's only going to get more intense, I would imagine. But I was driving along and I could feel, the only thing that I could think of was, this must be what the fifth dimension's like. You know, it was just a scent of it, but I could imagine all of the people around me in completely different circumstances, completely at their ease. You know, not just walking past each other, but being able to, I think you know what I'm trying to say, just knowing, everybody knowing who and what we are. It was golden, and, you know, that came after I wanted to bring this up because it's part of my journey and it might assist someone. So I was listening to a guy called Robert Wagner years ago, and he wrote this book called Lucid Dreaming, The Gateway to the Inner Self. And recently I started, and I experimented with it a bit and had some really amazing lucid dreams years ago now. But one of the things that I sort of fell back on in this whole time was I've always had quite a strong recall of my dreams, you know, keep a dream diary and have messages in my dreams. Generally speaking, it's me and my guidance working things out. But sometimes I get more visionary type things, rarely, but sometimes I do. And so I'd had this series of really powerful lucid dreams, and they seemed to be building as my awareness built. I had some really, really empowering and uplifting experiences. And this is when the feeling of 5D came after that, like the scent of it, you know, I think this might be what it is. And shortly after that, I had my first out-of-body experience. I wasn't even looking for it. I was just focusing on lucid dreaming. And then I had this out-of-body experience, which totally freaked me out, because I've done a lot of research into the whole conspiracy area, you know, the smart grid and the whole technocracy and the whole thing, just because you can't really speak to people about all of this stuff up here if they don't actually have a framework for it. And so several years ago, I thought, you know, I want to do something. And so I focused on that, and I did a lot of study and some work around that. And so, you know, that information's here. And so I sort of opted out of this out of body. I was sort of going out and thought, no, I don't know what this is. And then later sort of cogitated it and worked on it and thought, I don't think that was a bad thing. And so Robert Wagner in his lucid dreaming book had mentioned Robert Monroe, and his book was Journeys Out of the Body. And he just spontaneously started traveling out of his body back in the 1950s. And so I read his book, and some of the things that he described were like my experience. And I thought, you know, so I was reading about this, and the stories are inspiring and really resonated in my heart, and it gives some techniques. And then there was another guy, William Buhlman. His book was Adventures Beyond the Body. And his was less scientific. Robert Monroe did a really scientific analysis of out of the body and set up what's called the Monroe Institute. And there was a lot of work done with hemisync, you know, sine waves and things that you can listen to. Not listen to them yet, you know, I'm just at the start of this journey. Anyway, so I was reading those, and then one night I had this really powerful series of lucid dreams. And then I did go out of my body. I was out. First time ever completely cognizant of it. And I didn't leave the room. I just sort of checked it out. I'm having deja vu right now. So I know that this is a nodal point, you know, when you have that. It's a timeline coalescing perhaps. So, and then I don't recall going back in, but then I had another lucid dream. So in all of these lucid dreams, and this out of body experience, they coincided with Robert the two Roberts, Robert Wagner, Robert Monroe, and William Buhlman's stories. Check the circumstances, the sensations. In all of these, I was closer to my guidance. I engaged with dream figures in the lucid dreams who I feel were my guidance. When I was out of my body, I didn't actually see anyone. It was just me. But when I had this, the following lucid dream before I woke up, I did have guidance. So I very much feel that, you know, here I was just trying to lucid dream, trying to get into myself to work on healing, on leveling up, on expansion, disencumbering myself of the things that you brought up your migraines before. Well, you know, I've got other things that I've gone through that I've, you know, work on healing, and you seem to chip away at it. You get a little bit further and a little bit further, but you always seem to have to come back to, you know, do some work on it. I wasn't looking for the out-of-body experience, but it was just suddenly there. And I really do, I felt God in it, for lack of a better term. You know, my guidance was there. And anyway, I've been going on about this for a little while, I know, but just wanted to bring it up. It might activate somebody else. And it's part of the great, for me, it's part of my great awakening, and it's what's helping me bring my energy together, my courage together to stand up at this time and move forward with grace and dignity, and to, you know, basically to be like a child, but with discernment, you know, with maturity, but to come back into the heart. You were saying in your email about, you know, 5D and, you know, what's part of it. And I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that it's in the heart, the high heart, you know, the thymus, the heart. It's in surrendering to our higher self, bringing the Christed frequency, the Christed energy in. That's really where I'm at. And I wanted to, if I was going to talk to you, I wanted to bring that out. And I've sort of come to the end of my run again.
Well, I know what you, I got two things that I want to go, but I know what you're talking about with the heart. It's almost like when you know that you're truly in the heart and you're stepping into that 5D frequency, it's almost like that ego thing goes away, and that survival thing goes away, because you're so much more worried and about adding to that service to others. What can I do now? I want to make this world a better place. Who can I help? What can I do? You know, before it was like, what can you do for me? You know, it's all about me, 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 me. And when you get into that heart place, it's like, it's not so much about you anymore. It's about everything around you, how to make everything around you that better place, that more community, you know, community place, more harmonious, more colorful, and all of that. So, but yeah, but back to your out-of-body experiences. Were you afraid when you knew you were out of your body? Was there any fear there? You said you felt like you were guided, and you felt like there was love there. And were you able to say, okay, I want to go back in my body? Or did you just go back, and did you just find yourself back in your body? Because I'm going somewhere with this.
So the first time I felt the first time this happened, I wasn't afraid. There wasn't any fear, but I was very wary and unnerved by it, because, you know, to describe it, it was, I heard this I've always got ringing in my ears all the time, especially if it's quiet, I can hear it ringing. And some of that's from playing loud music for years, you know, rock and roll in bands and stuff like that. And some of it's from other things, you know, it'll just come on at different times during the day. And then you won't hear it at all for a long time. But I was that's right. So I'd had this string of lucid dreams. I had the experience where I felt like I could sense the fifth dimension, or what I thought. The only thing I could think was, oh gosh, is that the new world? Like it's just a fragment of a dream of it. You know, I've resonated into the timeline or something. Well, that night I started to have a lucid dream, and I could feel myself going into it. And often there's almost an electrical feeling, like I'm bringing myself into the dream. But this time I felt like something pushed me back, and I woke up. I thought, oh, that's disappointing. And I was lying there and doing my meditations to go back to sleep. But then I suddenly heard this really intense ringing in my ears. It seemed like it was coming in one ear and then the other. I wasn't sure if it was outside or inside my head. Either way, it was incredibly loud. And then I heard two people having a conversation in this ear, a man and a woman. And then I felt like my legs were slightly lifting off the bed. And I felt like I could see in my mind's vision, like some sort of energy, like there was a beam going into my head, and I knew that I could just easily leave my body. And so that was the experience. For lack of for better or worse, I put it out there to the internet now. And
you're in trouble now.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to level up to it. And I just thought, no, I don't trust this. I don't know what it is. I thought it was some sort of electrical interference of some description. And so I sort of was half paralyzed, and I managed to roll over to the side. And when this beam went off my head, it all went away, but there was just this kaleidoscope of images that went through my mind. And so I wasn't afraid, but wary. The second time the second time I woke up, and what I'd read in Robert Monroe's book and William Buhlman's book was the thing that really signals an out-of-body experience is this intense feeling of a vibration in your body. They call it the vibrations. And before you can even get out, these vibrations need to start. Now, I'd not had that really in my experience the first time. So I woke up with this, like an electric shock in the back of my neck, and I felt these vibrations. And I thought, oh, that's what this is. This is what I've been working on. You know, I've been intending for it. I've been doing exercises for it, calling in my guidance, knowing that I'm protected, and do I even need protection? How much, you got to deal with your own subconscious and your accumulated ideas in whatever way you do. So, and then it just sort of fizzled out. And the third time was when I actually got out. There was no fear. I know I've sort of short story long here, but just to sort of, for whoever it might help, I had a series of lucid dreams where I saw a dear friend of mine, and I felt like I was being shown a vision and then directed to look a certain way. And then I woke up and then went back to sleep. Then I had another lucid dream, and I was in a job interview. And I was asked this question that woke me up, and I said, "Who are you?" And there was this woman asking me these questions. And I woke up, became lucid. You know how you become lucid in a dream, all of a sudden you're lucid. And it was, "Oh, who are you? What's going on? Why are you asking me these questions?" And she just smiled and then vanished in the same way as the other person I saw in the other previous dream just faded away. Like I was just being shown these scenes of these dream figures. And then I woke up and I thought, I'm too tired to focus on going out of my body. I had it in my mind that I had to lie on my back for this to work, to either float out or sit up and then turn around or whatever. And I thought, I'm too tired, I'm going back to sleep. So I rolled over and faced the wall. I was facing the wall, went back to sleep, or almost, and then all of a sudden I realized I had a voice talking in my left ear. This was just a man's voice talking at me. I could understand everything he was saying. Of course, I couldn't remember any of it when I woke up. Could understand every word. And then all of a sudden I became lucid that someone was talking to me and said, someone's talking to me. Oh, that's like before. And then the vibrations just started and they were vibrating my whole body. I thought, oh, here it is. Relax, go with it, let go, let go. What have I got to do? I've just got to intend to get out. I've got to visualize myself floating out of my body. And I could feel myself vibrating and wobbling around inside my body. And I felt my legs sort of twitch, like not my physical legs. It was like something inside. And then all of a sudden, I just shot out of my body into the corner of the room. And I was there in the corner of the room and wow, I'm out of my body. This isn't what I expected. And my vision was quite dull. It was unclear. Couldn't see very clear. It was kind of blurry. And one of William Buhlman's things that he learnt was to ask for clarity. And so I asked for clarity and I said, oh, clarity now. Didn't get any better. I repeated it. I even tried saying please and nothing changed. And then I started to worry, thinking, oh gosh, you know, what if this doesn't get any better and I'm stuck out of here? But then this thought just came in straight away. It's all right. Everything's fine. You don't have to worry. And there was a feeling that everything was fine. And then it kind of just went black. Like, you know, I'd reached my energy body. I'd sort of activated it. And then, you know, I wasn't able to maintain it perhaps. I'm not sure. Either way, it just sort of went black. And I ended up in another lucid dream. And I was watching a woman walk down a driveway. I was in a different room. So this was a lucid dream. Oh, by the way, when I got out of my body, I could see the bed. I couldn't see me. I could just see a pile of blankets. I turned around and because I thought I better have a look around here, make sure that I'm out of my body and not in some lucid dream. I could see the shelf. I could see things on the shelf. I had touch. I could feel myself. That's one of the things that William Buhlman and Robert Monroe say as well, that they can actually feel like your hands pass through things. I didn't actually do that. I was just sort of more, gosh, what am I doing? I want my vision to be clear. So yes, I did confirm that I was in something that resembled my physical room. Anyway, so the next I recall, I was in a lucid dream and I was watching a woman walk down a driveway. She wasn't looking directly at me. It was a laneway or a driveway. She was looking at me through a window. And she wasn't looking directly at me, but I knew that she was aware of me. And on my right side, there was a woman and she was saying, you know, you were naked back there. I was like, no, I wasn't. And it was a feeling of being me, but not me, a different aspect of me or a different me somehow. So, and then I woke up and then I went through the process of, you know, integrating it and writing it all down and contemplating it. And so this whole experience, you know, the lucid dream of being in a job interview was very similar to William and Robert's experiences of being, you know, they'll be interviewed by someone to ask them questions, you know, to establish, you know, where are they at with their awareness, you know, how awake are they? I wasn't awake until she said something that made me go, what? And then having guidance there, they say there's always support. Whenever you're out of your body, or you have a near-death experience, you always have guidance. So you often won't see them until you actually, and this is, you know, the very beginning of the journey for me. You know, I've been trying to, practice this, but as yet, you know, it's been weeks and I'm still at the process before. It's not happened again yet, but it's one of my main focuses. But as they developed their skills, they became more and more aware of these dream guides, of their guidance, and that there are different layers all around us of reality, different densities of energy, different parallel realities. And I can honestly say that I've actually had an out-of-body experience now, and it's real. It's not some sort of wish me, fairy tale fantasy thing. This is real. So anyhow.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because your intention was to do this. And see, when I was young, when I was probably 4, I could do that, but I didn't know what I was doing. When I would go to bed at night, I would suck these 2 fingers and I would the satiny part of the blanket, I'd rub my other hand across the satiny part of the blanket, and it would relax me and put me in an altered state. And the reason I did that was because I would leave my body, because the feeling, it was a little bit different experience than yours, but the feeling was, it was like I was flying and somersaulting and going higher and higher. And it was such a freeing feeling. It just felt so good. So I couldn't wait to go to bed every night so I could do that. But then my mom would get mad at me because I was ruining the blankets. So she made me stop, and because I couldn't do that anymore, I stopped doing that. But as I got older, I would do what they would call dream paralysis. Have you ever heard of it? And so I didn't know. I would like leave my body, and I could, like, you could see, and you could see everything, and you could put your hand through stuff. I would leave my body, but I could just only hear what was going on around. I could hear the TV on, and in the room. If the telephone rang, I could hear the telephone ring. But then when I would try to get back in my body, I would try to wake up before I was actually back in my body. So I would freak out. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wake up. I can't move. But I know what I'm doing. And so I eventually learned how to, if you didn't freak out, if you just relaxed, you could calmly go back in your body. And but I hated it. It still scared the hell out of me. And I had it the last time I had it was like, I don't know, around 2003, I think. We were in Trinidad, Colorado, and we were in a hotel, and it was early in the morning, and I had one of those. And I'm up, and I could hear people walking down the hallways of the hotel. And I was like, what are you doing? Just get back in your body. Well, I couldn't go back in my body. I kept trying, relax. And I started to panic because no matter how much I tried to relax, I couldn't go back in my body. So I thought I was dead. And so I'm going, if this is what it means to be dead, this really sucks, because there's nothing here. There's nothing going on. There's nothing here. And I was so mad. And then all of a sudden I felt his hand on my head, just rubbing my head. And it calmed me, and it was enough to calm me where I went right back in my body. And so when I was younger, I think, well, like the silver cord that connects us to your solar plexus. So when you do leave your body, you have that silver cord so you can get back in. But you hear so many people that do that, they astral travel, but a lot of times they end up bringing entities back with them. And so when I was younger and doing this, and I didn't know I was doing this, I would see a lot of shadow people around, a lot of shadow people, a lot of ghosty things. And so I think what happened was, when I was out there, they saw me, and then they attached to me, and I brought them in. So it took a lot of years, many years, to figure out how to get rid of them, so, but yeah, it's probably a good thing to read those books before you want to do out-of-body experiences. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Yes, entities, greeblies, things that go bump in the night, all of that. To be honest, I don't really see those things, but for many years I felt them. I could feel them. In dreams, I would see things. And that, yeah, really was a big barrier to going out of body. And one of the things I do in my intention, in my prayers and my meditations, is I call in my guidance. You know, I call in the beloved mother, beloved father, the
And I think
Christ,
that's
you know,
why you're here.
spirit guides. And you intend to have your space, you know, filled with the highest light. And you know that you're protected. When I was young, yeah, I used to fly a lot. And the older I got, flying became jumping really high and falling back down. And the older you get, and then from time to time you'd break out of it and have a flying dream. Robert Monroe touches on that whole thing of entities and whatnot out there. It's documented in his book. He avoided esoteric terms. He was very scientific about it, and he gave everything. He called his experience the second body, and he said that he established 3 locales. So he had locale 1 was when you were in the second body, experiencing, for lack of a better term, the physical density in your non-physical energetic body. Locale 2 sounds very much like descriptions of the astral plane, where you have the lower, mid and higher levels of the astral plane. I mean, I think Hermetic teaching says, you know, you've got 7 layers in every, you know, you've got the great physical plane, mental plane and spiritual planes. Then we've got, you know, people who talk about the etheric and the astral. It's all difficult for me to actually, I haven't actually standardized any of it myself, but and it's all quite amorphous, you know, it sort of all blends together. But he spoke of the locale 2, saying that the lowest sections of locale 2 are where, you know, it took him a long time to get through it. He had to get through it very quickly to avoid the things that he would encounter in locale 2. And so a big part of it was you really do have to have your concentration together. You have to, and I'm still working on this. You know, I'm a lazy meditator, have been all my life. And I have to, you know, meditate, you know, sit down and concentrate. And so I really think that our guides are there, and they will help us. You know, they know what we're up for, what we're ready for. As long as we intend for that and work on that within that sacred space, we can get there as we're ready. And some people just have this natural ability, and they're like the trailblazers, if you will. Yeah, so Robert Monroe's book really does talk a lot about that stuff, those things in the lower astral.
So,
Lucid dreaming and out-of-body experiences, I think, are very close together. They're related.
yeah. Well, so for him, locale 2 would be like probably the 4th dimension.
Maybe.
You know, because he was talking about the things that he had to get past, that he wanted to get past. And I think the 4th dimension is where a lot of the dark entities are, and people who are, you know, not totally crossed over. And
it sounds a lot like that. I mean, it sounds like all of the descriptions of the 4th dimension that I've heard from many, many people who can, you know, who experience that and, you know, can actualize it. For me, that's still a conceptual idea, if you know what I mean. I know that I feel those and have felt those entities, you know, at times, you know, when your energy is very low, dealing with depression, all of that sort of thing. You know, it's a long journey to get to this point. It, for all intents and purposes, it sounds exactly like the fourth dimension as I've heard it described. But he also talks about beautiful, beautiful realms, extraordinarily exquisite, beautiful realms that he could go to beyond the fourth dimension. So in the fourth dimension, you had all sorts of sexual dysfunction, all sorts of people who were sexually dysfunctional beings, entities that, you know, had sort of, they were stuck in this area. And then you had people who seemed to be, for lack of a better term, just mentally ill, you know, mental illness. There's all sorts of different things that he described. And, you know, I've had dreams where I've encountered so many things like that, but not when I've been lucid. Well, I have had some lucid dreams where I've shaken off dark entities.
Yeah.
Where they've come at me and I've been able to shake them off, or times when I've not been able to and I've just woken up, which I think, you know, you just go back into your body. It's like, get back in because you're not up for getting around whatever that is yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lucid dreaming is a trip. When you know that you're doing that, I mean, it is such a trip. I'm like you, a lot of my lucid dreams, I'm usually doing battle. You know, it's like I'm kicking ass.
Yeah. Do you have those?
Yeah. I mean, I remember one where we were in the house and it was like these dark things were trying to break into the house and the family was in there and I'm up there like I'm got these incantations coming out of my mouth and I'm using my hands and these powers are coming out of my hands and I'm trying to stop it, you know, and you know, but it's like in the dream, I know that I'm doing this. I know what's going on in this dream. I mean, it's just crazy. I have to tell you about a dream that I just had. I don't dream a lot. And so when I do dream, I really need to pay attention. And they're usually pretty darn interesting dreams. Well, you know that my daughter's going through the cancer. And so with this 5D stuff, it's like, okay, it's time to step up this game here because we talk about how we don't really, they want to keep us from realizing the power that we have, from realizing what we really are and what we're really capable of doing. And
that's what this is all about, isn't it?
What?
What we're at right now, this is it. This is the sticky end of it. It's the great awakening and the, oh gosh, no, don't wake up. And this is really much what our purpose is. Anyway, you were telling me about your daughter.
So doing exactly that. It's like, okay, it's time to step up to the plate. It's time to be that person with that power. And so I just decided that I'm going to take on, so when I do my work in the morning in my spiral wheel, and I'm working with, I call them my A-team, you know, the ascended masters, the angelic realm, the ancestors, the ancient ones. I'm working with all of them. And it's like, okay, so I used to think this wasn't permitted, but I was going to do it anyway. So I said, I'm going to take on my daughter's cancer and I'm going to bring it into my body. And you guys are going to help me do this. Because I'm going to bring it in my body and then I'm going to transmute it and get rid of it and send it to Gaia and let Gaia do what she needs to do with this disease. And I know it's encroaching a little bit on my daughter's free will, but it was like I was feeling like, well, we're connected by blood and I felt like I was part of what she was going through. So I felt like this was okay to do. And so after I did that, maybe a couple nights later, I had this dream and I was at a conference and it was like a spiritual type conference, and I could feel something come up my throat, and I didn't want anybody else to know what was going on. And so I walk out of the conference and I could feel it coming, rising, and it started coming out of my mouth. And it was almost like, the only way I could describe it was like it was raw bread dough.
Mm.
And so I'm pulling this raw bread dough, I'm pulling it out and pulling it out and pulling it out and pulling it out. And it got to where it was stuck. And I was like, well, if I yank too hard on this, is it going to kill me or what? You know, so I really yank and I get it out, but it kind of hurt my throat. My throat was really sore. So I get it out and we're looking at it, and it just kind of transformed. It was like this big pink blob, but we noticed that there was flukes, parasites in it. And so I just gave it to Gaia. I said, here, get rid of it, transmute it, or whatever you want. And so I woke up and my throat was sore. So that morning, my throat was sore. And so in that dream, it was like, okay, so I actually did what I set out to do, and, you know, took on whatever parasite that she was dealing with, took it into my body and got rid of it. And so it was like, you know, we're there.
That's wonderful. That must have been a really empowering experience.
Yeah, because it's like so many people are they're so afraid to go there. Oh, what do I have? But it's you are as big as your imagination, and imagination is such a horrible word, because it's fantasy, it's made up. Well, it really isn't. You know,
yes, yeah, that's a very big aspect of what's going on, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's kind of like, now we have to start using our imaginations to manifest what we want the fifth dimension to be. And
yes,
you know,
anything positive that inspires you is really good food for thought. And yeah, you probably read this a long time ago, but I think it was 2008, I discovered Jane Roberts, who did the Seth material. And the thing that Seth was saying, that she was saying, was we make our own reality. Everything. We make the whole thing. And that's something that has been, and that was back in the 60s, early 70s, was it? Around about there. Fudging my dates a bit, but this is something that's been quantified now with quantum theory. If you look at the double slit experiment, where they worked out that just the person watching the experiment affected the outcome. And this has happened time and time again. And this is the scientific proof that we affect reality. It's a co-creation. Actually, that's another thing that William Buhlman was talking about. He was saying that there are realities where they are essentially mass consensus realities. And in a way, this is kind of the sticky end of the wedge. You know, this is what we're up against here, or with, to somehow, I don't know how, with our imagination, as you were saying, affect this consensus reality. That, you know, one of the things that Cobra talks about is critical mass. Mm-hmm. And I've heard other people talk about that. What was it Jesus once said, apparently? Now, I'm thinking of Benjamin Creme, who used to do Share International. He was talking about Maitreya, the world healer. Sorry to pull that out of the left field there, but Maitreya used to said to him, give me 10 good people and we can change the world. But now there's so many people, we need thousands and thousands. Um, yeah, this really is part of this transfiguration, this transmutation, like what you did for your daughter. And I'm sure there was some sort of, because of the psychic connection, there was permission given. I'm sure that must have been, or else it would not have been able to happen. That we can take on the burden somewhat and transfigure it within ourselves. James Gilliland, ESETI, he's got this great clearing, and it's one that I've used time and time again when getting back to the entities that you're talking about, when I've felt set upon by these things. No longer try and just sort of reject them and push them away, try and grab hold of them, pull them in and hold them. And I use his clearing. It's, dear one, you connect with a higher dimensional or higher vibrational energy like the Christ or something. And you say, dear ones, we welcome you into the love and the light. You were healed and forgiven, uplifted and enlightened. You're free to move on to the Christ consciousness, the Christ frequency. And we ask the beautiful many to take you to your perfect place. And so I memorized that. And every time I use that, it's passed. And if it hasn't, it's been, I've had to go deeper into it, but just repeating that has helped. And I think you're really onto something there with our imagination, surrogacy, taking on these things. We really are at a point with the narrative out there that it's, even though you could drive a truck through the holes in this narrative, a whole armada of trucks, it's become an impenetrable miasma of dissonance. At least that's the way it seems to me. And all through the day, my mind tries to find ways of how do I explain, how do I get people to listen? And I've keep coming back to Christ transfigure, Christ transmute, come back into Christ and step back and let higher self guide. And that's why I'm talking to you now, really. I thought, oh gosh, do I really want to go out and end up out there? It's like, well.
It's all in the timing. It is. It's all in the timing, and I do that too. It's like, I'm out of here for a while. I'm going to step back and just whatever happens, happens. And, but then before you know it, I'm right back in the game again,
Yeah.
But I think a lot of what's going on right now though, with the narrative is today I picked up on that so much of it is distraction because
it's so transparent. It's pathetically transparent.
Yep.
If you anyway, sorry, I was
but I mean everybody that's got the YouTube channels, they're just so deep in the deep state of it, and it's almost, I even got caught up into it. You find yourself just sitting around all day long just watching these videos of what's the next intel, what is the next, what are they adding to the narrative. And I just realized that, what is that really doing for me personally? It really wasn't doing anything for me personally, and it was keeping me away from using my imagination.
Excuse me.
If you kind of know where I'm going, I mean, it stops you from doing what it is you need to be doing. You need to be out there. You listen to all these people and they say, well, you should get out into nature, get out and do this and that. But in the meantime, what am I doing? I'm sitting here in front of the computer and I'm listening to all of them because I want to know what the next message is, because somebody might have the next message that I'll be in the fifth dimension 24/7. So I started to realize a lot of that is such distraction, and the politics and all of that. And it's like, those people that are a part of that, that's where they're at. Let them play that out. For like you and for me, there's a different frequency, or there's a different mission or job that we're supposed to be doing. And for you to come back out, you know, that's no mistake. You know, you have so much to share. And
thank you. Thanks.
yeah, so yeah.
I think this is going to be like one of those big movies where you think that all the chips are down, it's a done deal, and then at the last minute, that falls over, this comes in, and it changes. Everything transfigures. And that's just obviously the linear for the linear mind, you know. There are people who say that it's already happened now, and I do feel that that's already like that. Yeah, as you were saying, hanging on the narrative and the latest piece of this from whoever and whoever, you know, sometimes it can be beneficial to check in, because there might be just one little thing that you can say to somebody, because, you know, very often when I'm at work, you know, my word, the whole day, it's just as soon as the topic comes up, the narrative, I just have to sort of pull my energy together, because very often there's very little you can say. But if there's one thing that you can say that's cogent and causes someone to think for a moment, you know, that was the little thing for them, perhaps. But yes, I agree with you. Hanging on the computer, you know, you're in this the electrical field of the device, the machine. It's a dependency. It's a cyclic thing, and yeah, getting out into nature really is, because out in nature, everything's great there. It's beautiful. Nothing's changed. In fact, it's I can feel it. She's changing all the time, and yeah.
Yeah. Because how can we manifest that if we're still stuck into that? We have all of our attention on the narrative, exactly, and the marches and Trump's speeches and the COVID doctors and yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's good to go in once in a while and see what's going on, you know, but so many people just get caught up, and that's what they do all day long. You know, I listened to this person for 4 hours today, and okay, so did you learn anything? So what are you going to do now with it? Are you going to go out into nature? Are you going to use what you learn to find out something about yourself? Or hear something that you've never heard before on your own? You know, it's kind of like a lot of it ends up being a crutch. I think. Yes. Yeah. Because if you didn't hear it seems like everybody's afraid to get their own. Because we always say, oh, go within. You need to go within. You need to go within. You need to go within and get your own stuff. But if it doesn't match what everybody else is getting, what do I know? I'm not getting the right information. You know what I mean? It's like I know what you mean, and that's the sort of the different layers of your ego and your awareness, and you know, checking, and it's the whole third dimensional, you know. The little hooks, psychic hooks that sort of are all there that, you know, you pull one out, and another one latches on as soon as you go into that. Going back to what I said before, when I was driving home after sort of getting into the whole gifting thing, and felt like I could sense this liberation timeline, this awakening timeline, I thought, you know, maybe this is what this fifth dimension is, this feeling of
of love, of bliss, of this transcendental feeling. And, you know, I came home and by rote, I was sort of looking through email and I ended up watching something on the narrative and I just came down. That feeling just went away as soon as I let that back in. Or it wasn't like I chose to let it in. It was sort of an impulse. You know, I was following these habits, you know, check that, check that, check that. And yes, what you were saying about how are we going to make this something new when we're still thinking about that? And the answer is not thinking about that, changing the way we speak, changing our language, changing our habits, only focusing on, you know, the most beneficial information. I mean, one of the great things Magenta Pixie says is there's this 3-step thing. You've got to go into it and learn what it is, because sooner or later it's all going to come out and you want to be ready. So you go in and you find out what it is. And I'm sure that you and your listeners know what I'm talking about. That whole miasma of sticky stuff. And, you know, I've been, and I'm as sure you have, I've been doing really, ever since I watched Zeitgeist in 2008, I've really sort of been going into this, looking at the whole conspiracy and all the different things. So you've got to go into it, you've got to integrate it, you've got to learn it as much as you feel you need to, and then you've got to let it go. You've got to transfigure it. And then you've got to go into forgiveness. Forgiveness is a technology that Christ brought us. It's an esoteric technology, an energetic technology that was brought to us to transfigure all of the stuff that we pick up when we're here. So we got to get to the point where we say, okay, I know what's going on. There's some practical things I can do around the house in my lifestyle to prepare on that level, do those, and then focus solely on the work. And the work is coming back to the Eric Klein material that brought us together. That is the awakening, for lack of a better term, the ascension. And that is, you know, going upwards or downloading stuff in, enlightenment, lightening the load, doing your shadow work, processing your stuff. Yeah, it's just focusing on the highest optimal reality that you can imagine. And yeah, for like I said before, for me, it's like it's being childlike, you know, holding the inner child, protecting the inner child, but being mindful, being adult, and responsible with the things that you know that you've learnt help you to manifest that feeling of well-being, bliss, joy. Joy really is the thing that catalyzes for me, that is the catalyst that has really transmuted me in the last few years. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we could talk about this for days.
We've been speaking for quite a while. How long have we been speaking?
Oh, God. Probably a month. You think it's been about a month?
Oh, gosh. It's been an hour and a half.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so since 8:30.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
8:30 here, 4:30 there. It's 10 o'clock now. It must be 6 o'clock now where you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. Yep. 6:01. 6:01. So.
Should I let you go then, Denise?
Well, I think we should pick this up. If you want
Okay.
to, we can keep doing these, because this is what I think we need. This is what we really need to concentrate on, I think, now.
Yeah.
Is writing the new narrative, imagining it, talking about what it is, you know, we would like to see, you know, how are we going to bring in this 5D? What is 5D really going to look like? I mean, if we're stuck in this old narrative, we're stuck with what's been done to us, what they're doing, what they've done, and if we keep talking about it, you know, what you resist persists. I mean, if you keep talking about it and rehashing it and rehashing it and rehashing it, it doesn't seem like it's ever going to go away. So it's like we need to, I think the channels, the YouTube channels need to start talking about, we know this has been done. We know that there's this big shift going on. Okay, so now what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to bring in? What would we like to see? If they just all of a sudden went away and we had all the power in the world to change the world, what would we do? What would we change? What would we like to see?
Well, I guess for me, it's the thing that gets me out of that is it's not what they've done to me, it's what I've allowed them to do. It's what I've acquiesced into through weariness or ignorance. Start owning it and start taking ownership of it. And also trusting. This is one of the things I've learned from reading. So this isn't from direct. The only way I can really use this information is because I've had a direct experience. I've not had the experiences that Robert Monroe or William Buhlman have had, but I've had an experience that's proven to me that it's real. That in these non-physical realms, things manifest pretty quickly after you. If you think it, it's there. You know, there's different gradations and densities of these realms, but with the physical realm, it's the same thing. It just takes a little bit longer for it to crystallize. So it's kind of an endurance thing. You have to intend it, and then you have to scaffold and babysit that idea in the physical timeline, because it might not look like it's happened yet, but you have to go believing that it's there. You have to, and I'm not saying that I'm without fear and all of those things, you know, just like many people in that, you know, I've struggled with those things too. But the things that I've learnt from listening to, I don't know, you've got people like Sandra Walter. I don't know if you've listened to Sandra Walter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Sandra, Marina Jacoby.
Yeah, I've had Marina. I've actually interviewed her.
Right. She's a really lovely, genuine person.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that really allowed me to listen to her. And so much of the stuff she's talking about, you know, the quantum manifestation, it was easy for me to take this on board because, you know, I'd read Jane Roberts years ago. This is exactly what Seth was talking about, just with a different format. So we have to start, owning it, taking responsibility for what we can. And I guess the thing to keep ourselves afloat when we're not seeing any immediate response, while there's all of this noise out there, is well, if we do go and check in with stuff on the internet, we only check in with the people who are focusing in that higher dimension or that higher energetic way, that higher vibrational way. And we do regular personal work. It has to become, we have to become dedicated to it. And, you know, for some people, they don't need it. But for me, I've got to do it, or it's like doing yoga, or my back will be stiff. I can skip a day, but then I start to notice it. You know, I'm 45 now, so, you know, really got to...
Oh, you're still a baby.
Yeah.
I'm almost 60.
Oh, gosh, you don't look it. Anyway, you don't got to do nothing. You've got to do what is right for you. But for me, that's what it is. Everything that we've been talking about, that's what it is. That's what I need with the particular psychology and baggage and karma, whatever that is that I have, role. Everything I've been talking about is what I need.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
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 Mm.
Oh yeah. And I think,
And always keep your mind open. Always keep
yeah.
your mind open.
Yeah.
Put things on the shelf. You don't actually have to take them and put them in your top pocket. They can stay on the shelf. They're
Right.
there to check later.
Right.
Just, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's, you know, it's about finding your tribe once again. And it's like, okay, you know, stepping back and watching all of this unfold, watching all the people interact with all of what's going on and realizing that that's for them. That's where they need to experience. But a lot of us have already been there. We've done that. And, you know, it's that different frequency. Those, like Marina says, you got fourth and fifth, but all these different frequencies in between. And each of us are on a little bit different of frequencies. So, but yeah, I think a lot of it is, you know, finding your tribe and being with the people that really uplift us and help us to be up in the fifth instead of taking us back down to the third all the time. And, you know, we need to change that critical mass. We know there's the mass going on right now with all of the narrative that's going, because you see so many people that are just, that's where they're at. They can't go any further. They don't understand. That's all they're being consumed with. They don't understand about this ascension thing that's going on.
Yeah, or even as simple, you're into heart math, right?
Yeah.
So when people have been entranced by this, and it's played into their lowest vibrational ideas. And when the heart goes into that state, it closes down and they don't think critically. And because they view their trusted sources, who they've been led and taught to believe in, until they see until they turn away and actually take on something else, you know, take it in and, you know, or see it on the TV, you know, even what I'm saying now is a limited sort of perspective on it. There's much higher perspectives, but that's what's coming to me now. And yeah, we just have to trust that that the time will come. I mean, look how quickly this has happened. It has happened so quickly. It can change just as quickly.
Oh yeah.
And there are a lot of things percolating in the background on the in the physical domain and in the unseen realms that are working. You know, there are many, many things that that we can look at to give that aspect of our consciousness some sort of hope. You're talking the other day about a lot of people checking out as well. Right now, I have known in the last 8 months, well, less than 8 months, but it's 8 months since the first person died, 6 people have committed suicide and 1 person's died from cancer. All of these, 4 or 5 of those people very, very close to me, and 2 of them not so close, but part of my life. And it's had an incredible effect on me because it's just thrown the family up and down, and it's happened right before this whole thing rolled out. So you had to negotiate family gatherings and funerals within the whole thing, and also try and honour your family with all of these rules and regulations that have been deployed everywhere. So I read segments of the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying by Sogyal Rinpoche, or maybe I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but Tibetan Buddhist. The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. And I've been told that there are other better ones, like the Tibetan Book of the Dead. But either way, that's the one I read because it's my grandmother read that when she was dying, so I read it. And in other countries, like, for example, if we go back to the tribal peoples that we were speaking of before, you know, the original peoples of Australia and America, other countries, death is something that isn't this big thing. You know, it's a journey, it's the next stepping stone, it's a natural occurrence. But in the same way, we as European imports into these countries, in these colonial outposts, have been separated from the land by dysfunctional religion. Now, I'm not trying to criticize Christianity because, you know, me, myself, I'm not a Christian per se, but I believe in the Christ. You know, I grew up through Catholicism and said, no, I don't want that. And then came back around and realized that, well, actually the Christ is something that I identify with a lot. But all of that other stuff from the Vatican and the Catholic Church is rather questionable. Either way, that was used. If you ever read John Lash's book, Not in His Image, what he says is what happened to the peoples of Europe was basically Christianity was distorted, right? It was used, I guess, in the same way as the Roman Empire never really died. It just got religion and said, well, this is a money spinner. This is the way that we can keep people under the thumb. Let's use that. They went in, they pulled all of the people up out of Europe, took them off the land and gave them this off-planet Redeemer complex and said, there you go. That's your salvation. Do that or you'll go to hell.
Yeah.
I'm grossly simplifying, I know. But that's what made it possible for the English to come here and genocide Australia, to South America and North America and genocide there, because their spirit, their connection with the Mother Earth had been taken away.
Yep.
So I've gone slightly off topic, but what I was trying to say was, on top of that, I've just got the thread again, on top of that, we've had this fear of death because, well, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you go to hell. But then we've had the last 50 or 60 years where they've just totally decimated this whole idea of the Christian family, and it's all of this other stuff now. And so now we're all atheists, generally speaking, if you go to university and go through academia, and we trust in science. And science is wonderful, but if it's captured just in the same way as Rome captured Christianity, then it's used as a tool of mind control. And so people are they're living in this little bubble. And I'm sorry if I'm generalizing anyone out there who identifies with what I'm describing. I'm just trying to bring an idea together. So we've been removed from the land, we've been taught to fear death, and so now we need all of these surgically cleaned spaces and utensils and devices and technologies to exist and be safe, to keep us safe. It's a psychosis. It is, I mean, if you look at the definitions of psychosis, if you look at psychotic behavior, the back of my head's tingling, and that's when my guidance is saying, be very careful now where you're talking. So it's possible that I'll lose my discernment here, or my grace. I don't want to do that. I guess all I'm trying to say is that there's all this backstory to explain the phenomena that we're all seeing, people wrestle with. But at the end of the day, it's all part of a cycle. It's all part of, you know, the yugas, the cyclic thing, you know, the Iron Age. We're in that Iron Age right now. You know, a lot of Christians that I know who say, oh, we've got another 1,000 years before the second coming because of this and this and this and this. And we've got all these other people who say, oh, it's this. Everyone's got to follow their own path. And we can go into that historical stuff, which is written by the winners. And if you look for it, you'll find the other stuff by the people who haven't been recognized, but you'll find it. We can go into that, and we do need that for our third dimensional egos that have been educated and grown up in this to help us. All it is a bridge to get to where we are now. Just like those cassette recordings that I've sent to you, they're 30 years old, but they are still cogent now. There's something geometric in it, that 30, but all they were was a catalyst. And, you know, they're just a quaint little audio artifact. But having said that, they're also a catalyst for incredible awakening. At least they have been for me. So now I'm rambling and I've lost the threads. They're frayed all over the place.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, but that's it's good that you came back around too.
Finally got there.
You found your way back around to him. Yeah. But no, that is so true, because there's nothing wrong with dusting that old information off. And I'll make this real quick. But it just seems like the channeling, all that, you know.
There's a 2-hour limit on Zoom recordings.
No, there isn't. If you have just the two, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yep.
There you can just talk forever. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's like Eric Klein, you know, the Seth material, the raw law of wind material, they all started channeling around the same time. So it was like, yes. Okay, they're ready. They really, really need this information now. So we're going to start getting it out to these different people. And I tell you what, if I would have read this material back then, I'd been so mad. So here we are. You know, I mean, I started learning in the late 90s about the shift. And, but before I heard about this material and these channelings, I was hearing about it from other people. You know, it seems to be the mainstream information about ascension and, you know, meditation and going to the heart and reconnecting with the planet and, you know, this and that and this and that. And so it was the mainstream information for me for many, 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 many years, up until when someone told me, oh, you need to read these books. And I read these books, and it was like, well, this is where it all came from. You know, all the information that I've known and everybody else has been repeating and repeating and repeating. Well, it's like, this is where it started. So, but yeah, we could talk forever and ever. And if you if you want to do this again, we can.
Sure. I'd love to do this again.